You're all set, John.
All right. Greg Elders and I started talking about the FBO issue, and we realized even though we tried to do some homework, we weren't making a lot of progress in understanding what the issues were. So then I called Michael and Peter to see if they'd be available to consult with people, and Greg and I intend to do that. And they were, and I would urge people, because some of these issues you'll be unfamiliar with, just to take advantage of their willingness to help out here, because they both have a lot of experience in airport issues, and both of them are on the County Airport Advisory Board. So that's why I repeated that comment here as number one on the agenda issue. Secondly, we talked last time, and I think we all agreed that the airport staff, and in particular April Gaspari, are willing to be available to help people understand the issues and to comment on what they find. Now, we also decided, I think, Greg, that the request to speak to April would be funneled through you.
Yes, that is correct. And again, just to kind of streamline it, just so again, she doesn't have like 10 people reaching out to her.
Yeah, I think that's fine to coordinate it that way, because we don't want to
We don't want to bombard her.
abuse her generosity.
And again, at least we can do is ask. And like I said, I don't want to also necessarily be presumptuous that she wants to look at all these papers, but at least it's the professionally courteous thing to do. And again, that's
Yeah, that's right. Now, thirdly, status of the briefing papers. Now, as I said last time, Greg and I have really, excuse me, really not made a lot of progress. So we are accelerating our efforts, I have to say. But how about other people? Let's see, I'll just start with, Martha has produced three draft briefing papers, which is, puts her well ahead of anyone else, because no one else has produced one, so she's really doing very well. We're working with her on those briefing papers. Now, Juliana, can I ask how things are going? You were supposed to be working with Rich, who's not here, on the King Street traffic issue.
Yes, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did speak to Rich, we did we had a conversation. I have gotten information from the Portchester side of King Street, and I've reached out to Rybrook, so now it's just a matter of getting answers back. So we're working on it.
Perfect, because I understand years ago, the village administrator in Rybrook, Chris Bradbury, told me that years ago, there were efforts by Greenwich, Portchester, and Rybrook to talk about traffic issues on King Street, and in particular, focusing on that bridge that crosses the Hutchison River Parkway.
Okay.
That didn't work out all that well, but nonetheless, maybe we're in a new era of cooperation, and we can make more progress here on those issues. So good, keep up.
I don't. Let me just put in. I don't know how necessarily bad that worked out. I think there was a question of, there was an effort at a certain point to redo the bridge in a way that would allow for more and heavier traffic. And that ultimately did not come to pass. And I think the fact that it did not come to pass was, I can't speak for Portchester, but based on my understanding, that was, in accordance with the wishes of Greenwich and Rybrook, but not necessarily New York State.
Yeah, you may be right, Peter. I don't know. Chris explained to me it was an effort to raise the bridge because it's the most hit bridge by trucks on the Hutchison River Parkway. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, and it was a tricky thing because it's one thing to raise the bridge, and obviously, that's been an ongoing problem, although it seems to have been alleviated at least somewhat recently. But um, but in so doing, the problem was that if New York State or Connecticut was going to touch the bridge, then they were going to take advantage of the opportunity to enlarge the bridge. It's very similar, by the way, to the issue that we keep bumping into at the airport, is that once anyone wants to touch anything, then that's the opportunity to make it bigger and better, than ever,
Oh, okay.
regardless of what the downstream consequences
Well,
of doing that would be.
yeah, I didn't mean to distract everyone, because the issue that Juliana and Rich are working on is really just traffic and the
But you
flow.
see how I did get it back to the airport.
Yeah.
Got
Okay.
it. I'm just going to interject just real quick. So just on that one issue, I'll just mention it very briefly because Chris and I have talked about that too. The opposition, again, this was many years ago, did primarily come from Greenwich, just because they didn't want the traffic also diverted like really onto their side. So that's really kind of why that fell through at that time. But Juliana, I just have a question for you in terms of just so I can maybe help speed up the process. Who did you reach out to in Rybrook?
Sergeant.
Eric Bangler?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That way we can-
So if you have a contact, that'd be great. I sent him an email. He
Oh, that's the right person, but again, I can
responded.
speak to him directly.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and just an FYI, Eric Dangler, again, just, he will be the chief as of next month.
Oh, okay. Great. That's
Oh,
good to know.
Greg Austin is leaving? I didn't know that.
Yes, he is retiring.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, thank you, Juliana. And Michelle, I know last time you had made progress with ideas about the status of the waiting area at the airport.
Right. So what I've been working on the report, and what I've done is I've broken the customer experience into two parts. So one is the passenger physical process. So that's and I've broken that out for departing passengers and arriving passengers. So what is their physical experience going through the airport? Everything from driving into the airport, drop off and parking, curbside support, baggage and ticketing, security, restrooms, concessions, and hold rooms and waiting areas.
Good.
And so I've done that for departing and arriving passengers. And then I included ways to upgrade the customer experience within the existing terminal footprint in those areas. And then the second part is, first part's passenger physical process, second part, passenger emotional satisfaction. I don't know if we want to call it that, but that's what I was thinking it is. How satisfied the customer is as they're going through the process, and that it involves quality infrastructure, efficient processes, well-maintained facilities, the amenities, which I talked about last time, the lighting, the open spaces, the natural features, plants and water, artwork, music, and then services and amenities to focus on for traveler needs, like areas to de-stress, electrical outlets, charging stations, seating area, in the seating areas, desks and workstations with outlets, free Wi-Fi, things of that nature.
Right.
And then the signage, improving the signage, and then leveraging the sense of place with artwork and artifacts that I know we saw when we were walking around up hidden on the third floor, bringing that into a more prominent, space. So I'm making progress. I haven't heard from Larry. Larry was going to do the parking part. I don't know if anyone's heard from him on the status on that.
Well,
No.
no, I have not. Maybe you drop
Oh.
an email. You have his email address?
Yeah, I'll send him an email.
Great, thank you. Now, Peter, let me ask you a question about what Michelle just said. the money to pay for those improvements would come from the airport users?
That's correct.
Well, that ought to make
What,
it,
what does that mean? You're talking about the
That means
passengers?
that there should not be any tax implications to county residents from anything that you're proposing.
because they'll just incorporate it in, they'll be incorporated into what the airlines pay to use the terminal, right?
Yeah, right. The airport generates plenty of revenue. The problem is not a lack of, between the money they raise through airport fee, various user fees that are baked in, under FAA regulations. They make money from selling the gas at the fuel at the airport. They make money from leases to all the private operators of different hangars, facilities, and private terminal facilities. And so as a result, historically, the problem has not been a lack of money at the airport to accomplish its ends. If anything, it's too much money rattling around at the airport, which results in projects being undertaken that don't necessarily take into account the surrounding community's needs and impacts.
Yeah. So Michelle, you have the enviable task of proposing improvements that the citizens don't have to pay for.
Right. So, so in terms of what I'm talking about, I mean, do you see any red flags in any of those things, or?
I would say offhand, no, but I would say the one thing to always try to keep in mind is that we want the nicest possible airport that won't create pressures to grow it further.
Oh, of course. And throughout the report, I'm saying with the existing footprint. So
Right.
all these changes, improvements, working within the existing footprint.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw out, and I'm not trying to, rain on your parade at all. I'm just trying to provide perspective. So one issue is the one that you're focusing on right now, which is not to expand, not to expand the physical capacity of the airport, which is a slippery term that is frankly just not really well defined anywhere that I've ever been able to locate. So, but we have to err on the side of not doing anything that airlines could claim is expanding the physical capacity of the airport, because at a future date, they could use that argument to say that the limitations that were grandfathered in no longer apply because the airport no longer is no longer at that historical capacity, that same historical capacity that it was when those limitations were justified. Okay, so that's issue number one, and you're already on top of that. Issue number two is trying to walk the fine line between making the user experience at the airport, in particular the public passenger experience at the airport, more comfortable and pleasant, but at the same time not making it so wonderful that it creates this constituency for, oh, we want to use this airport more. We want it, who cares if it grows, but if the people from New Rochelle and Yonkers and White Plains and Greenberg and the folks want to come to Westchester because it's so much better than going to LaGuardia and Kennedy and blah blah blah, then that creates a counter constituency to our concerns when it comes to noise and air and all the rest of it. That's all.
I'm totally with you, and I'm taking a more minimalistic approach to this. So, I mean, I identified the different areas, but, small changes that could be made, to those areas that could, make a big improvement. I mean, I've been to the airport recently. There's no place to charge your phone. There's no place to work on a laptop, just having, I was next to a pregnant woman and who had a small baby, and she was struggling to nurse the baby, and, just small adjustments to be made but to still keep it, at its size, because we all want that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Seems like
perfect.
you've got the right instincts on this, Michelle, so.
Okay, great. I hope so.
Okay, Januse, are you working on any of the briefing papers?
No, I'm not. I've had the surgery, back surgery. I've been
Ah,
dealing with that, just trying to get back on my feet, actually.
oh,
That's
okay.
what I've been
Good.
doing. But,
Wow.
when you talk about the improvements and then don't improve it, I find that just, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's gonna work. I know you're saying that you're gonna minimize minimally, but how do you try to make it more friendly, nicer for the customer, which is the passengers? I think they're the same word. And then trying to not improve it at all so that they don't like it. I think I don't know how that works. I can't figure out how you can do that. It's almost like, Michelle, don't do anything. Just go, no. You came up with a list, great, and then don't do anything, because how are you gonna improve something if it's going to affect and people are gonna like it?
Well, it's because,
Well, here's the
I
thing.
just don't see that.
I recently flew from Westchester County and flew back into LaGuardia, right? So night and day, the two experiences, right? So we're not trying to improve it, so it's like LaGuardia Airport. And I was thinking of that as I'm, working on this. So
No,
Peter, I
okay.
agree with you. We don't want to make it LaGuardia Airport, but there are small things we could do to make the experience better, right? So one of the things that the pregnant woman with the baby was complaining about, when you entered the airport, you entered through baggage claim, and then you had to walk alongside security and then to get to the ticketing. So, is there a way to have the door opened, by the ticketing area, so it's a easier flow and it's not so bottlenecked by, the baggage area? That's not like that's just an operational change. That's not changing the footprint and, making it like, oh my God, this airport's amazing, but it's just something to improve upon it. That's
Yeah,
one example I'm
that is a
saying.
good one. And it's simple. The door is right there. There's a door right there. They used to have two doors. I mean, open,
Right.
not, they still have the two doors. They're just not open, like you say. But you were talking about a place for computers to workstations, a mom feeding location. All those places, as soon as you utilize them for that, that means you're taking space away from sitting.
Well, one of
So
the
that you
things,
can't have it both. That's what I'm saying. We want to keep it in the same footprint,
no, I
but
understand that. And if
I
you've
just see that
been to
possibility. As soon
if
as you put
you've
10
been to the
stations,
second and third floor, they're so underutilized, the second and third floor of the airport. And Martha was on, and John and I took a little walk around when we were there,
I
and
wanted to myself, but that's when I had the surgery.
oh,
So
Yeah,
I'm
there,
so my
sorry.
back went out. Yeah,
But
unfortunately, I couldn't go.
right, so there, and that I mentioned that in the report, improving seating before and after security. Well, I'm not an architect, but I could say, well, let's look at utilizing the second and third floor, to help improve with that. Um, you know, and an architect would be able to, come up with a design, for a solution like that. But I think, that's like just a slight, change. I don't think, by doing that, all of a sudden, all these people who like to go to LaGuardia and they have the club rooms there and the, special services there, we're not going to be offering that, you know,
we can
Westchester
compare,
Airport.
right? We can compare $3 billion investment in LaGuardia Airport to our little airport. I mean, that's $3
Right,
billion.
right. So,
The
They
way
have the
I would
space.
put it is, the way I might put it is this. If the airport's too nice, then you start, getting a big constituency to use it. And that constituency could even drown us out. And ultimately, the big threat is that people say, we don't, we know that there are these limitations at the airport, but let's get rid of them and let it, grow bigger because it's such a great thing to have. And, sorry for the folks that are living nearby, but the greater good would be served if we just let the airport expand. And it's not, as a numbers game, it's certainly not impossible to imagine that happening from, the towns, that have greater population further away from the airport. On the other hand, if the airport is, terrible, and kind of decrepit and out of date, then again, you have people agitating, I'm crowded. If we need to expand the airport, let's expand the airport because, we can't live like this kind of attitude. So what we need is a happy medium where, it's nice enough that people aren't moaning and groaning and suffering, but, without trying to, as I think, Michelle, you put it very well, equal the amenities and such of LaGuardia or any other, world-class type facility. We don't need a world-class facility. It's a county airport, but we don't want people to suffer. We want them to have a comfortable journey. That's all.
But isn't it true that what really keeps the airport small is not the space and all the floors that we have? And if you build the side to the side and build an additional building, it's not the space that has individuals that come there be comfortable. It's the number of flights that are coming in and out. That's what limits. The plane is only can fit 200 people. You cannot fit 500. So you're limiting the expansion by the number of planes that are landing and taking off.
Yeah, the problem
To
with
me,
that
that's what it is. That controls the size of the airport. I don't think the buildings really will control or looking ugly or not taking care of them. I don't know if that's really makes a. I think you should make it pretty. I think you should.
I'll share my perspective on this. The airport has demonstrated over and over again that it can handle a lot more flights than currently go in and out. In fact, it does this every year because there are periods of time during the year around holidays where the limitations on the number of passengers per half hour are not in effect, are suspended. And when that happens, and the number of gates, the limit on the number of gates per half hour that can be used for planes coming and going are suspended. And what's happened is over the years, the jet bridges, under different administrations, the jet bridges were expanded so that, yes, there were only 4 gates, but they're actually closer to 8 positions for planes at the airport. And this way, they can actually, even though there's only 2 doors, or there used to be only 2 doors before they expanded the seating, they could actually handle significantly more flights than the normal limitations allow whenever the law suspended those limitations. So if you could imagine a situation where we just got rid of the limitations entirely, and in fact, where we could make changes or even rebuild the terminal to maximize use of the runway and taxiways, you'd have a lot more, and you'd have a lot more passenger jets, larger passenger jets, coming in and out of the airport on a regular basis. There's no doubt in my mind. The airlines are regularly seeking ways to handle regional capacity beyond what LaGuardia and JFK and Newark allow. And they've always had their eye on Westchester. So the fact of the matter is without those limitations of number of passengers and gates per half hour, and the limitation of what the building can accommodate, we'd have a significantly bigger, louder, noisier, smellier airport to deal with. There's, that just is what it is.
Well, I think we need to see what Michelle comes up with, because as I heard what she said, it would be a stretch to say it was increasing the passenger capacity at the airport during times when the regulations are in effect. It seems to me just amenities that are being added to make it a more pleasant experience.
Right, that's exactly what I'm, working on, is just the amenities and, ambiance signage, and just sort of making a brief suggestion. That's, a brief recommendation. And certainly, it shouldn't impact the capacity changes.
But when you produce the paper, we'll have a discussion in this group about it and
Sure.
see what happens. Because I hadn't envisioned you'd have waiters with trays of champagne passing through the crowd. Wasn't gonna
Sounds
go
good
that
to
way.
me. So I would like to have a conversation with April. Is that possible for you to set that up for me, or?
I'm assuming, Michelle, you're referring to me.
Yeah.
Yes, no, okay, yes.
Good.
So should I email you or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Martha, shall we go on to you?
Well, I don't know what there's to talk about. Everybody has seen the papers. I received comments back from just a couple people. I plan to incorporate whatever comments are left, and that's it. Done. Anybody have any other comments that maybe I haven't received? Should I be waiting to get more comments before finalizing them?
Martha,
Doesn't
I owe
sound
you
like-
some comments, but
Okay.
I appreciate
I
you.
I'm on the second two papers. I've only commented on the first one. Dear.
Oh, okay. All right, then I'll wait to receive your comments. It's pretty inefficient to just respond to one person's comments and then
Yeah.
another person's comments. And I really would I thought we'd have them all by today. Today was the deadline for all comments on those papers. And I'm traveling for the next week to 10 days, so not happening,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But that gives you all a chance to get your comments in still, if you have any. So next week would be great.
That's kind of you, Martha.
Well, I'm love to be done and move on with something else. I feel like there's a little cloud hanging over me right now to get these things done, but
Yeah, it's the issue of being first. You always have many more challenges. Once we get it done, people see what you've done. I think the others will go more smoothly.
right. I hope so.
And this October 31st, which you're absolutely right, was the deadline. Unless there's something going to happen in the next week, it's very impossible to think we're going to meet that deadline.
Right.
Okay, let's
Yeah, just to kind of further add to that, and again, maybe that's again a self-imposed deadline that you guys gave yourself, but it was talked about at least, and again prior meetings, that you guys will at least bring this back to your elected boards for the December meeting, or at least by December. But I guess keep in mind that, Rybrook included, a lot of them, we cancel at least one meeting in December because of the holiday season. So again, but that way at least it's done by the end of the calendar year. I don't know if that's something you guys still want to aspire to, if that's realistic anymore.
No, it's not, Greg.
Yeah,
I
but then
think
again,
we may get a couple of these, like the Martha's, kind of ahead of the pack. We may get Martha's, I think we could at least get Martha's Air one finished. And then that could maybe go as a resolution to the various communities.
I think we're going to do it all at once was the plan.
Yeah.
What Nick talked
well,
about. We'll have one set of recommendations that'll have subheadings for air, stormwater, passenger experience, one whole package.
Yeah, no,
And that's what I would recommend too, is that do all at once. If you do it piecemeal, you're going to lose a lot of elected bodies, and even again, administrators, it's going to get frustrating.
okay, so
Yeah.
then I don't.
And there, you know, there's some overlap between them, right? So it's better if it's a cohesive document that hangs together.
Well, I doubt we're in a position to get those all done by December to get them, put them
You know,
forward.
and that's fine. But then with that being said, then what my recommendation to all of you then is that maybe not tonight because there's only half of us here, but then at some point you guys need to come up with a new timeline and try the best to at least adhere to that timeline. That way we at least remain on a schedule.
Yeah. Well, okay. Still, I've asked both Peter and Michael, there's still no information about the status of the master plan, as I understand it.
No, I mean, that's the good news and the bad news, I suppose. But mostly good news is that we're not under the gun in any knowable way.
Yeah, Michael had raised the question with me of whether we should really aim to get these out before the master plan is after the master plan is released and we react to it, or get it out before. I'll tell you, I'm a
Before is much
proponent of
better
before.
considering, you know, we have come up with some issues that were not addressed in the last master plan and need to be part of their scoping document. These consultants, when they do these master plans, start with a scoping document, and that's where all the issues get identified. It's much harder to get things added later. It's much easier to get them added at the front end.
I completely agree, Martha. That was my experience in business as well.
And John too, I was just gonna share my perspective from an administrative role from, and again, this is just me. It's always easier just when you get things ahead of time because then you're kind of in a reactive phase when you wait for everything to come out later.
Right.
I agree.
All right, there we go. All right, so maybe let's see. I added this because we had a longish discussion in the last meeting about the role of the task force once the municipalities pass the proposed resolutions. Greg, you were going to see what Chris's views on that were. Did that happen?
Just to give the honest answer, no. I know
That's okay.
there's a lot of things going on, but that is still something that is still on my radar to discuss. Now, Justin, and not that we haven't discussed it at all, we have, but just again very preliminary. But and he said as much at, well, it wasn't it wasn't really an executive meeting. He said it. I know some of you were here to hear what he said. That he does envision you guys, at least in his current recommendation as it stands now, to at least in some capacity, once all the recommendations are done, and once the master plan process again has been released, to sit down at the table with the relevant Westchester County stakeholders. Now, that's honestly the extent of it, what we've had. But again, that's something I definitely got to speak in more in depth in terms of, okay, once we get that far in terms of what our each individual roles in terms of you guys will be once we get to that step.
Okay. I mean, I see some practical issues there, but let's see how it works out.
It's a general, again, that's a general basic idea. Is it, as I said, is it really, has it been, is it really detailed yet? No, but at least that's what, and as he said as much, and what, based on just the very basic preliminary conversation I've had with him about it, again, he does that. Basically, point being is that this is not something where once you guys are submitted this, and you guys are done. So again, at least to keep you guys engaged in the process going forward.
Okay, we'll figure out what the form of the engagement is.
Exactly, and that's something we'll figure out. But at least you guys are just something that you can expect going forward.
Okay.
Remember, John, I think it was, well, 1 or 2 meetings ago, we were talking about the scope of things. And, you know, at some point, depending on the volume of recommendations and analysis that we produce, you know, it may also just not be practical or wise to try to have 7 municipalities get that far into the weeds, you know, but rather to separate out the more general recommendations and concerns along with a sort of an addendum or a set of addenda that have more specific, detailed suggestions and the recommendation that and the overall and then incorporate the overall recommendation into the resolution that we want the municipalities to pass, to say that, you know, that we'd like the county to engage with our task force about these more specific recommendations. And this way, you know, it might make it easier for the various municipalities to embrace, you know, and vote on in an efficient, successful way, you know, the kind of resolution that we want them to. But we'll have to see first what we've got,
Right.
and then, you know, what we've got will determine how we want to present things to our municipalities, and that in turn may influence what our role is going forward, or the need for us to have a role going forward.
Yeah, remember, we want to keep our recommendations at a level where every municipality can sign on to them, even though they have different views, different interests. We want it to be something everybody can say, yeah, I agree with that. So we'll see once we get all these resolutions produced, what the right next step is. Because I have an open mind about it, but I am concerned about some of the mechanics of it.
Yeah, hi,
Uh,
Michael here. This is Michael. And the other question I had is when I look at the master plan is not an aspirational document. It really doesn't identify goals. So to the extent our, recommendations go to the scoping of the master plan, how do the aspirational goals that we are identifying dovetail with the master plan process, and how do we bring those points home? That's the part of it that I'm struggling with.
Well, I guess it raises the question of, can the master plan be more than it is? You know, in some cases, perhaps less than it is, but in other cases, more than it is. And, you know, to some extent, you know, that would require, you know, additional expertise and comparative analysis of different master plans, which, you know, I don't, again, feel that it's necessarily fair to put on us. But look, the worst case scenario is that we raise some issues that ultimately the county and its experts determine are just not suitable for a master plan. Does that mean we've wasted our time? I don't think so.
yeah,
As long as, number one, there's nothing in the master plan, you know, it helps avoid making sure that there's anything in the master plan that would make it any harder to reach those goals. And then number two, the county still has and would hopefully find a way to acknowledge the input from the communities. And one would hope that in a representative government like what we have, the combined weight of our communities would be sufficient that master plan or no, you know, inclusion or no inclusion in the master plan, these goals would find their way into county policymaking.
well, that's the point I think I'm considering too, Peter, that the master plan to me isn't a straitjacket. It's a it's a scoped proposal about which is going to get approved by the FAA about how we should do things at the airport, but it doesn't limit us in as long as you keep within the spirit of the master plan, I would think. So the things like Michelle is talking about, that would seem to me to be something that the county could make a decision on absent even a master plan. And it's just a question, I'm focused on what is, I mean, I've heard Michael's comment, but I don't know, the county should be aspirational about what it wants to achieve. That's my perspective. And the master plan may be a more technical document which sets out certain parameters and whatnot, but it doesn't mean within those parameters the county government can't have other goals which those parameters allow it to achieve.
Right. I agree with you, John. And I would also point out that the current master plan was put forth by a prior administration that, in my view, had little interest or sympathy with many of the goals that we're focused on here as communities in the vicinity of the airport. So the fact that things are not in the current master plan, I don't think we can assume that that means they don't belong in any master plan. Um, it doesn't follow. It might be the case with some, at least some of these. There may be even a sympathetic county government might have an argument to make that X, Y, or Z is not appropriate as part of a master plan. But again, the larger definition of a master plan is a visioning statement or a visioning document. And so it's still appropriate for us as communities to say we want, X, Y, or Z to be part of the vision, part of the plan, whether it gets incorporated into this particular document or not.
But to me, that sounds like a natural function of the local municipalities.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll have to tie it together.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so Michael, any further comments?
No, I think I'm gonna work with Rich on the noise report. So I've started doing some research on that topic to organize my thoughts on it. And I know Rich is in LA now, and his paternity leave is over, so his time availability is limited, but we'll put it together.
Yeah, and I think Martha, one of your papers concerns noise as well, right? Oh, no,
No,
sorry, water management, sorry, got it confused, sorry.
I didn't do noise.
Yeah, you
No, she has air
water and,
pollution.
yes,
Yeah, Martha did air
and then
pollution,
the
yeah.
water you divided into two, storm retention and
Stormwater and groundwater.
groundwater, right, okay.
Right.
We have a high bar to try to meet to meet the standard that Martha has set for all of us, so. But
Well, it
thank you
really
for
wasn't
setting the
that hard.
standard, Martha.
And,
Well,
those topics, there's a lot of information out there, and it was just a matter of, kind of pooling it all together. And some of these other topics, the experience, Michelle's topic it's hard because you kind of have to, it sort of has to be, built from scratch. I haven't seen a document that's described the passenger experience. Maybe there is one. Has there been one that ever done on that topic before? By the advisory board or anybody else?
Not that I'm
I haven't
aware of.
seen that.
Yeah, so it's great that we're spending some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think it's probably overdue. Mine was easier in the sense that, I was just pulling together information from various existing sources, but on topics like that, there's really, starting from scratch, there's really nothing in existence, so.
Yeah, and it's so subjective and, based on each individual experience to be able to sum it up in one place is challenging, yeah.
Yeah, but
Look,
I think you can benchmark it to some of the amenities that are available in most airports now, like outlets for charging your phone. Accessible outlets for charging, a place to get something to eat besides, our little area there. And we talked about, somebody said, well, there's really only so much you can do in the building. The simple thing would be to add an elevator in that space in the corner that goes up to, past TSA, that goes up to the restaurant. So you could actually use the restaurant post TSA. Right? There are little teeny things that would really expand the usability of the space that's there with very simple changes.
Yeah, yeah, and you see
Keep
the
in mind, by
nursing
the way, that if
kiosks in other
you know,
airports.
yeah, just keep in mind that if you can use the airport, if you can use the restaurant post TSA, then you cannot use it pre TSA.
Right.
So,
But it would be
yeah.
a choice. That's a choice, but I guarantee you'd have a lot more usage if it was post TSA. You have a captive audience there, literally. People come
Yeah.
early, an hour early, and they want to get a bite to eat. Where are they going to go? That would be it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Look, I think we need to appreciate what we're attempting to do here. I mean, you
Right.
could easily envision that we're being quite ambitious and aspirational ourselves in the kind of feedback that we're aiming to give the county. It would be, I think, quite understandable if a group like ours basically sat down and said, we think traffic management needs to be better. We think air pollution monitoring needs to be and mitigation needs to be better. We think noise needs to be better. We think airport amenities need to be better. And even if we and perhaps not go that much further beyond that, it's giving the county a problem, not a solution, but it's really not our purview or expertise to necessarily be, qualified to provide solutions. So, it's like, um, if this were if this were the spring, I would say Dayenu. It would be enough um, if we simply message to the county that the master plan needs to do a better job than it has at dealing with X, Y, and Z, and if we fleshed it out a little bit more, all the better. The extent to which we are trying to justify and even provide proactive guidance and ideas is really quite remarkable. And I think we should be proud, but we should also be understanding if we can't always, if we just don't always get to that optimal level in every respect. It doesn't mean that we're not doing our job. It just means, we're being perhaps realistic where we have to be, more realistic where we have to be more realistic, and it's still reasonable in view of our role in the process.
I mean, I think the whole the way I think about this is, and I think Martha's paper on air pollution is a good example. We desire certain things to occur. And this is a simple statement about what we want. We're not telling them how to achieve what we want, because that's their job. We're just saying this is what we want as the people who live around the airport.
Okay.
Thank you, John and Mike.
All right.
Thanks,
Does anyone else have any comments before we sign off?
Do we have another meeting? Is there another date for our
That's
next meeting?
exactly a good one, Michael.
That's what I was about to mention myself. But
Yeah.
before you go at the one thing I do want to mention that Chris asked me to pass along. So some good news coming down the works is that Chris, again, as well as the village manager of Port Chester and city manager of Rye, again, are looking like, I mean, it's not finalized yet, but hopefully they'll have it resolved by January for the airport to start paying for EMS services.
Oh, good.
Great.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's great.
yeah, so again, they're still working out the details, but they're hoping to have it wrapped up again by January.
Okay.
But it's proof that the work that you guys are doing is important, because again,
Perfect.
Chris's own words, this recommendation was a huge help towards that.
That's great.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Okay, so Greg, you're gonna circulate another survey for our next meeting? Is that how we're gonna do it?
Yes, but I will. But the only thing I need before I sign off is just like a week to.
Yeah, let's pick the week.
Well, we have Thanksgiving coming up, right? So we have to
Yeah.
be mindful of that.
How about the week of the 18th, which is the week before Thanksgiving? How do people feel about that?
Well, Wednesday, there's an airport meeting, so that's not gonna work, right? For Peter and I at least.
Okay.
what he said. Otherwise, it's theoretically okay with me.
Yeah, then there's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, of course, so
Right,
we just have to stay away from Wednesday.
yeah. Okay, great. Anybody else have any issues with that week or that we
All
know?
those dates work for me.
Okay,
Just one other thing that I need to mention about me, just so is FYI for everybody here. So I will be getting surgery in my left foot November 20th. So it's being I'll still be reachable, but I'll just be out of the office for like a week and a half.
okay.
To start
Good
November
luck with
20th.
that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry to hear it. Good luck.
It is what it is. It's fine. But even if we have a meeting like that Thursday, it's actually fine. I'll just because I'll be home all day, so it actually will break up my day if we do, if that ends up being the case.
But he'll be on painkillers, so
Yeah.
he'll be.
It's
Be entertaining.
it's a surgery. It's a follow-up. I got my right foot done in January, so this is the beginning of my my left foot one foot done. So it's not something that I already haven't been through.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay. So you'll send out the doodle poll?
I'll
Excellent.
still have to do a poll for yes, November, the week of the 18th.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Night.
talk to you.
Martha, I just want to say that I like your kitchen decor. That it reminds me. Don't hang on. Oh, here we go.
Usually I'm in my office, but I moved to the kitchen today, so.
Well, no,
Little
see,
different.
I was just trying to unblur so you could see my cabinets are like look almost exactly the same. But I can't figure out how to unblur, so
All
you'll
right,
take my
there
word
you
for
go.
I get the idea. That's great.
Okay.
All
Anyway,
right.
take care.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you again.
Bye.